Comparative Theurgical Analysis. An essay by the misunderstood Panther. Chapter 1. Introduction. In certain planetary theurgical Islamic traditions, specifically the occult Fatimiyya Sufi order, which was founded in 20051 by the Islamic scholar Wahid Azale, there is a notion that there are planetary pheno or archetypes which are divinely assigned to elemental or essential, of essence, integers. We can examine that of the Lord of Water, or perhaps, the Lord of Fire, etc., of which is being referred to from the Islamic tradition, not a Hellenic or Indic pantheon, to be a quasi-universal doctrine, in faiths that recognize theurgy as legitimate, of course. More specifically that there is localized or signatured, as quoted by Wahid Azale, lords of which are of divine disposition, and as one might expect from the postulated theurgy, these lords or rather planets can be assumed to interact intimately or exclusively with the corporeal domain, and human affairs. To expound further, when we articulate a lord of an element or essence, we are referring to the interaction with humans as assimilated over time to be manifested through the medium or conduit of man itself, and thus is born, or realized. The rite of theurgy is practiced in perennial traditions across the world, not only Islamic faiths. We will examine the theurgic pagan polytheism, which actually is calibrated or rather recognized through a monistic scope when in the application of theurgy, which is the very manifold uniformity expressed in Sanatana Dharma, the amorphous Brahman or God taking many divine forms, Deva, such as Ganesha, Vishnu, Lakshmi, etc. This is relevant, in that in Islamic theurgy, it is inherently monistic/monotheistic, and does not hold a pre-existing manifested pantheon, of which Hellenic or Vedic traditions do. Consequently, we need to closer examine the revelation through the noetic that ascribes divinity to archetypes, like water, fire, etc., in these traditions, specifically Islam. One exposition we could execute is that these integers or, for lack of better words, things, symbolically and practically represent primeval/primordial essences, or preconceived archetypes, comparable to that of Gnostic archetypes in Pleroma II. However, those archetypes are recognized to have respective dualistic partners. For example, the Son of God archetype, or rather Messiah, Jesus Christ, is married or intimately connected in dualism to the Church archetype. More on this. We will take water as a direct archetype. In many traditions, including Sanatana Dharma, all three Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, we can find a tenebrous primordial state of being in the ocean of the unmanifested, of which order was extracted, and incidentally, or really by God's will, creation. This, or a separate retroactively executed state, is also believed by Kabbalists 3 and Sanatani to be the inevitable return of respiratory return that will happen at the end of time. To digress, time is also a contingent condition of material reality, which can only exist if material reality exists. However, this will be expounded upon further in a section of this work dealing with temporal frameworks. In Sanatani dogma, the ocean of primordialism is not to be confused with Brahman. This would technically elicit a paradoxical revelation, yet the answer is quite simple. It is only that material reality exists as a manifested shadow/will of God, and if one follows any legitimate theological tradition, one would know that corporeal reality is not the absolute extremity or terminal mode, for transcendentalism exists. Therefore, we can systematically analyze God's creation, and what exists within it, for it is effectively contained within or simply as Brahman, and since time does not exist within the locale, we could literally say time is not of the essence in quod. This water is of course present and observable within material reality, and is reflective in symbolic and practical being. Look at the ocean, watch as the wave of chaos and intermittent amorphous enigma it resonates and exhibits. Aside from the commodity and libational use it possesses, the nature of the substance, or rather liquid in general, reflects the unmanifested, or divine potentiality that was the ocean of the before, that we know of in so many religions. Not only the primordial analogy is applicable here, but also the universal world flood myth that holds substantial merit in the manifestation of so many world religions. It is believed that a flood, that was divinely manifested and crystallized, covered the entire earth, with some people, Noah, or Manu, the archetypal or primordial man, comparable to Adam from Sanatana Dharma, surviving. So now it can be concluded that there are multiple reasons why water could be ascribed divine attributes, or even a localized signature or lord for the respective essence of existence. With this articulation of an actual theurgical integer, we will now examine the ubiquity practice, methods, and rites through history used to achieve the terminal goal of theurgy, that being theosis. Footnotes. 1. The notion of a 21st century Sufi order being congregated by one man, and to legitimately materialize a syndicate of followers of the tradition would appear outwardly cult-like, or, at a glance, a pseudo-tradition. Insofar as a tradition it attempts to supplant, or rather assume the position of, in legitimacy, it cannot be etymologically or practically recognized as a tradition, which by definition is frequently described as multigenerational, that of which the Fatimiyya Sufi order is not. 2. Mode of being which the monad pervades. We can recognize kanoma, the aberration from divine manifestation, material, to be a shadow, or cruel mockery of what we know as creation. 3. Practitioners or followers of a mystic Judaic tradition known as Kabbalah, which as well deals with archetypes, intimately. Chapter 2. Application. The word theurgy, Oxford Dictionary 2022, literally means the operation or effect of a supernatural or divine agency in human affairs. This is implicit that the action could be exploited. Perhaps the primary assumption about this practice is that it is used for utilitarian or personal gain. However, for the majority of history, it would appear that exploitation is quite often the antithesis of what would be considered authentic, or real practice and application of this theurgy. If we take this definition, and examine the Sufi Islamic Simiyya tradition, we will see that it is in fact pertinent, and would fit the description of theurgy. Techniques are used to convoke the ruhaniyya of the celestial bodies, an attempt to summon or call upon the linkage between the inferior, material, and superior, transcendental. There as well exists a prominent significance of a plenary astrological mansion, referred to by the practitioners of the tradition.